what Keep Austin Secure is, and me and Greg are super passionate about what we're doing over here, and yeah, give a bit of an overview as to what we're building here, what's super exciting, and yeah, just why everyone's here today, really. We've got an amazing panel. I think we've done a really good job, so I appreciate the guys coming down to do a talk. I think we're going to learn a lot, and also we want to keep this fun and vibrant, and yeah, I hope everyone has a good time. Cool, so just want to give a bit of an intro. I'll bounce off Greg a little bit here around what Keep Austin Secure is, and yeah, give a bit of context into why we've all dragged you down here away from your families tonight. So first of all, what is Keep Austin Secure? So everybody in this room, and the more that are going to continue to, I guess, roll in, you're all C-suite and VP level executives within cyber based in Austin. What we've identified is that there's a real gap in the city for an exclusive and inclusive community here. I know Greg can add a little bit of context into this as well from the years that he's been here, but we've found there's so many like micro-segmented communities in the city. You've got founder communities, you've got CISO communities, and I think that's, I guess, human nature, isn't it? You generally tend to hang around with the people that are most like you. Whereas we want to create like an overarching community here for cyber execs in Austin, where there's amazing friendships and collaboration that's created across founders, vendors, end users, and just build a real buzz for the city over here. Greg, I don't know if you've got any comments or thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, a little bit. I'll introduce myself as well. I'm Greg Fitzgerald. I've been in Austin since the late 80s. Off and on, because in technology, I've always kept my house here, which was great for tax reasons. And I've grown, though, lived in Annapolis, Maryland for SourceFire, lived in Palo Alto, lived in Southern Cal, but always kept Austin home. And so one of the things we found is we've got a gentleman right here, Ted, who CEO of Spy Cloud, who we started a group called Manifest back, 15 years ago or so? You guys did a great job with another gentleman named David Endler, who was going to be here tonight. We're kind of the old guard, the OGs, old guys too, where, you know, we've been around a long time. There was nothing here but Silicon and university that was much smaller than it is now, and of course, state capital. And even back then, there was a great group of cybersecurity personnel. And so the idea was, you know, we are pretty much typically introverts, right? Kind of stick to our own little knitting. And the idea was, man, we just need to get everybody together, because when we get people together, great ideas foster, right? And Austin has developed into a phenomenal city, and part of the discussion we want to have today is it still happening, or is it kind of waning? So it'll be a good discussion that goes on here, because, you know, the audience here has exploded. And so I was very fortunate and blessed to be part of the Tipping Point Technologies group, where we were intrusion prevention systems, one of the first ones out there, got bought by HP, and then went on, or 3Com and then HP, as we went through that, and then Trend Micro as well, and then been on serial entrepreneur in the cybersecurity world with people. And what we found, going to your statement, Elliot, was there's lots of groups that meet, but they meet separately. And one of the things that should, and my belief, happen is that intermingle the practitioners, the founders, the investors together for an authentic relationship. So we need your help to foster what you would like to see in this group. But we can go back to what we currently addressed as our mission, which is really to elevate that collective impact of the cyber personnel that are here. And if is everybody already on the Slack channel? Yes? Okay, if you're not, make sure we get you on the Slack channel. When Elliot launched this, Keep Austin Secure, we got 100 people or more?
Yeah, I think we're over 100 in about 2 weeks, which just shows again that there's such a need for something like this here.
Yeah, and so with that idea, we've also had the opportunity with Elliot and Hubscale, as well as Ashley with JPMC, and others who, from an organizational standpoint, have the resources to keep it going, right? One of the things Ted and I found with Dave Endler and others was, like, we work for a living. So trying to do this and keep it going is very hard. It also gets to be, you know, kind of expensive. So with ability to have an infrastructure of people who care about other people, we felt like this is a great opportunity to bring people together. So that's why we want to keep it just cybersecurity. That's our focus. We're not trying to be cloud. We're not trying to be infrastructure. It's cybersecurity. Now, if those fall into those topics, that's great. But the idea is just say cybersecurity, and then also to elevate the experiences that you're getting from other groups around here, whether it's ISSA or a venture capital group or anything else that goes along. Wonderful, but then hopefully we can come together as a more authentic approach to just getting to know each other. So we have a whole series of activities going on, so I'll turn that back over to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think a really key thing for this is that we want to have fun with it as well. Like, you guys have such busy jobs, day in, day out. We want this to be that Thursday evening where you can just chill out, just enjoy yourself, kick back with some friends, network, foster good ideas, but also just have a good time whilst you're doing it. So we've got a bit of a roadmap of activities. We're doing one thing every single month, and we'll go for exactly what that is. But the whole idea behind it is just having fun. I want you to walk away from it and go, wow, that was a good experience. When's the next one? When's the next one? So yeah, really important that. And then also, as Greg said, it's built for you, this. So as much feedback as you can give us, any ideas that you have around things that you think would be cool, any initiatives, like, this is built for you guys. So that's like a really key thing here. So yeah, why keep Austin secure? I think we've already spoken about that, but there really is a need for this. And I'll tell a very quick story about when I first came over here. So I've lived in Austin for 3 months now, so I only moved over from Manchester. When I first came here, I met with the first 10 execs that I knew in Austin. Jay's sitting right there. He's one of the guys that started this conversation. And what I found was quite wild was I'd go over and I'd say, hey, yesterday I was at lunch with so-and-so. He works at this company. He does this. And another guy would be like, what? Who's that guy? I've never even heard of him. Turns out they live 5 minutes away from each other. Their kids probably go to the same school. Doesn't make any sense. They work for direct competitors and they're both CROs. Why is there not anything here from a community perspective? So I was asking around, what does it look like? And again, so much micro-segmentation, but I think this can just bring everybody together under one community. One of the interesting things, I put this in the slide earlier, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and Simon Sinek was in it, and he was saying community is a group of people who agree to grow together, and I think that's like a key theme that we're going to have here as well. Yes, it's about fun. Yes, it's about just enjoying ourselves and making good network, but collectively, everyone is so much stronger. Everyone's so much more powerful and successful under one community, as opposed to that like heads down, focused on your day-to-day jobs. And yeah, value to members is a really, really important thing here. We've opened this up across both end users and vendors, again, to create like a bit of an ecosystem where there's a flow of idea sharing and connectivity, again, just to increase the amount of value that's coming. And we want to do, cool shit with this as well. Like, we want to do different things. I'll go through what the roadmap looks like, but again, every single thing that we're building here and all the ideas that we have, Greg and James and Katie and Ashley, who unfortunately can't be here today, it's all about how much value can we bring to everybody who's come. Yeah, so just finally, we'll show you a little bit here, but event roadmap for what we've got. And we're going to have, I think, a couple more strategic conversations in the background about where this is going to go potentially over the next 6-12 months, potentially broadening the value into Dallas, and we'll see what happens there. But June 13th, if you don't know, I'm sure you probably know because I message every day in the Slack channel about it, but we've got a pickleball tournament. It's 8 till 10. We'll put out an RSVP tomorrow for it, so if you're there, if you're in town and you play pickleball, I mean, I played once, so you can see how good the standard is there, but we'll have a pickleball tournament, and then we'll have a break in July. Then we're going to have Greg's idea, a go-karting competition. He says he's the best, so we'll see about that. And then we're going to have September, we've got a Fredericksburg wine tour. Again, just want to do different things than just a typical lunch and learn. And then we're going to have an open golf day in October. So yeah, just wanted to map out a couple of key things. This isn't a reactive community that's just sitting back and waiting for feedback. We want to be proactive and structured with how we're going to build this and operate it. Anyway, I won't bore you any longer. I'll pass you back over to the amazing panel that we have. But yeah, appreciate everybody coming out today. It's going to be really, really cool. Hope you can all take something away from it. And I'll pass it over.
Great, thank you. Well, one of the things is interesting, if you look at your name tag, there's actually a color, okay? So everybody is kind of, in the future, we're thinking, how do we identify when one comes in, whether you're a practitioner, you're a founder, you're a venture capital, right, in your finance area. And so I think mine is blue, so that means I'm a founder. We've got red, which I think is investors. We have green, is that right? That's practitioner? Okay, perfect. And so that will be something that we can take forward in meeting again and be like, I already know what you do, right? Which is great. So you can find out just immediately a connection that's there. And hopefully, again, if we try to just introduce everybody, you look at kind of your strengths. I'm a connector. That's what I do. I love to put people together and then sometimes just see what happens. And Neil was great. You brought a great conversation up today. So Neil Conlon, expert in this particular space as well, but also has some great insight on how to bring people together, right? And we, as like I said, are mostly introverts, so we don't necessarily are proactive to say hello to each other. But like a wedding or some sort of dinner party, sometimes you want to put people together and see what happens, and sometimes you need to keep them separate, right? Don't want any fights breaking out. So what a great opportunities we get to know each other, to be like, wow, you should just get to know this person. Because as Elliot said, this town is tiny, man. As Ted and I know, it's 1 degree of separation, and all of a sudden you're like, holy, I just get to know them. And there's usually some benefit, sometimes just personal and understanding, and other times it's business. So we haven't few enough people here, if you guys don't mind. It's only 6 o'clock. Can we go through real quick and just to say who you are, kind of where you're from, and just, what do you, what's your company, what do you do, real quick, and just go through the crowd? Is that okay with everybody? Okay, let's go. Neil, you just kick it off for us?
All right, let's do it. Hey everybody, Neil Conlon. Just moved to Austin 26 days ago. I need all the help I can get. I come with a woman, kids, dogs, and horses. Originally from New York City, born and bred. Cybersecurity guy for a bunch of years. I now run a coaching and advisory group where we coach CISOs, founders, investors, everyone on how to get better at getting better at these types of things. Me and my co-founder, Aaron Crow here, also run a series of events. Ted's been to some of them, so has a couple other folks have been to them. And just like you said, I studied underneath the guy for a couple of years who worked directly for Ray Dalio, who created this concept called orchestrated connecting. And so we're constantly trying to find ways to ice break conversations and have them work easier, better, more efficiently, not like RSA, since that's the topic for tonight. And yeah, so I would love to meet everybody. I'd love to know your favorite coffee shop, the restaurant I must go to, the wellness thing I must go to, a place to take my kids. I'm just a student in this city, and anything that you guys can teach me about it, I would love to know. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Aaron.
Eric Crow, as he said, we do some cool fun stuff. I've also been in cyber for 25 plus years, everything from an asset owner of a power utility, critical infrastructure, working in nuclear power plants and places like that, doing OT cybersecurity type work. I was a CTO of a software company. I was a consultant for Ernst & Young, and I do advisory work now as well with all the stuff that we do as well. So
thank you.
John Schmansky, I'm the CISO for TriVisual. It's a cyber-focused education, higher ed platform where we go in and provide vCISO, vCIO, vGRC services, bringing more and better products and services to the education sector, which is a giant mess. Worked for 11 years in state government here in Texas, and came from Vegas 11 years ago.
Great, thank you. That's perfect.
Hey everyone, I'm Madhu Shashanka, the co-founder and chief scientist at Concentric AI. It's a data security startup, Series B. We're part of Ballistics portfolio. Been here in Austin, 10 years now. Moved from the Bay Area. Really excited.
Good, thanks. That's great.
Welcome.
Mike?
Yeah, hi everybody, Ron Davidge. I work for a company called Brinca. We're in the Unified Vulnerability Management space. I think you said you were here 27 days. I've been here 27 years, so. in Austin over that time.
both of them 27, yeah.
And so I run the software team at Brinca.
Super, thanks.
So
Germany. Here since 3 months. With my wife and my kids, we came over actually for 1 year just to test out how Austin is. And actually, it was a lucky chance because here we found the only school which accept my kids because their English skills are very low anyway. They improve it. And I'm a CSO and co-founder of a software agency, and we provide data and e-commerce data to manufacturer companies. Actually, vendors and Amazon, big companies like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, HP, and like that. That's what we do.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Nalto Hall, co-founder and managing director of Salt Creek Partners. We are a sell-side M&A shop representing lower middle market B2B services companies such as IT services, MSPs, and also represent on the buy side a good number of private equity funds as well. Also an LP in a couple funds. I love food in Austin, so I have all the recommendations for Indian food, Mexican food, Asian food in town. So.
And how long you been here?
I've been here for 3.5 years.
3.5, all right, great.
Hi, I'm Victoria Hansen. I am Michael Hansen's daughter. I've been here for about 5 years, and I work with him.
That's great, love it, father-daughter thing, that's great. Why don't we keep going around the corner here?
Bob Layton, I'm the Chief Channel Officer at eSentire. This is my 5th either private equity or venture capital backed business. Been in Austin area, actually out by Wimberley since about 2016. Before that I was in the Bay Area. Before that I was in Houston for about 20 years, originally an East Coast kid. I find myself solving go-to-market problems and doing hard things and flying on airplanes.
That's awesome, thanks Bob, that's awesome, thank you.
All right, Rhett Dillingham, I lead part of Project HackerOne. Been in Austin most of 30 years, and been in and out of town, but back now, plenty of thoughts and recommendations.
Great, that's super, that'll be helpful.
Lynn Williams, been in Austin for about 27, 28 years. When it comes to food and whatnot, I mean, I've seen restaurants come and go, man. I'm with Atos, IT service provider, but pretty much been in cybersecurity my whole entire career. Also a board advisor, board director of several companies here in town.
Love it, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Katie Minahan. I'm a member of Hubscale. The Hubscale gang is very small, so there's 3 of us here in Austin. And yeah, I moved over with Elliot in the beginning of February and been here for 3 months. My part in Hubscale, I mean, I run the delivery function, so I become really embedded in our accounts with existing clients and really help build out the go-to-market teams there. So if anybody needs any help with their hiring, let me know. Yeah,
Great.
happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, how long you been here?
Oh, 3 months.
3 months as well, okay, with Elliot, great. All right, how about baseball cap? Yeah.
Rich Skinner, been in cybersecurity 20+ years. Been in Austin 4 years. Prior to that, Seattle and Chicago. I was the CISO of Whole Foods for about 4 years. Now I currently lead our tech strategy across Amazon and the grocery group.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
Hi there, I'm Matt Mullen. I've been in Austin for about 8 years. I've been involved with all things InfoSec and cybersecurity for at least quarter century. You can see the gray hair. So I'm involved in town with the local ISSA chapter, and when I'm not doing that, I'm also involved with running a small consultancy providing vCISO and vCTO functions.
Great, thank you.
Todd Polly, I am currently 3 weeks into a new role, Director of Security Compliance for a company called Form Blower Group. They're headquartered out in the Bay Area. They do a lot of tourism and boats and that sort of thing. Previous to that, 20 years with the state, and then I've been in Austin for almost 21 years. Before that, West Virginia. All various aspects of IT, security for the last maybe 6, 7 years.
Great, thanks.
I'm Aziz Kapadia. I'm never a founder, but I'm always the founding member. I've taken 5 startups to market in my career so far. I've been in cybersecurity for about a decade. That's how long I've been trying to move to Austin. But we finally made it 4 years ago during COVID, so it's been a great move. Most recently, my last startup, Avalor, was acquired by Zscaler, so I was the field CISO for risk management. At Zscaler, left 3 weeks ago to work on the next startup. So here we are. One cool thing I'll say is, IT and cyber, it's always been a require issue, right? I know we say this is cyber only, but I actually spent It's still a problem, but I do feel like the culture and the industry is getting better, and I'm really focused on making sure that bar stays good.
Great, thank you for that. It's great.
John Wag, been in Austin for about 15 years. In the cyber world for probably 25 years almost, and I'm a VP of sales at Fortinet.
Thank you, thank you, John. Steve?
Stephen Dufour, Chief Security and Privacy Officer at Evolve Health. Handle all security, privacy, governance, risk, compliance, and I'm also their AI officer. Very small startup, only about 5.5 years old, probably about 70 employees. It's pretty fun and pretty stressful.
Yeah. You've been here how long?
Been in Austin for about 20 years.
20 years, perfect, love it. What?
My name is Jonathan Rowe. I run a private consulting firm, originally based out of New York City. Now I'm in Austin. It's my actually 4th month here myself.
4th month.
Projects are winding down and trying to figure out what the next projects are going to be. And trying to get an understanding and to network in the Austin area.
Great, glad you're here, thank you.
I'm Jay Rollins. I run global sales for a company called PhoneCheck. We provide a commercial replacement for the CISA, known as Exploited Vulnerability List, and the NIST MDD. See some of our partners and customers in here, which is really cool to see. Prior to this, I was the first technical hire for a company called Run Zero, formerly known as Rumble. So I've been on the scene here for a while. Worked for big companies like Duo Security. I was there through the acquisition. Used to work right on 803 Congress, and then after that was at a company called Spring, which was an application security company acquired by Datadog. So got a little history in it. Spent about a decade in finance before that. Just finished up my financial career at JPMC, so I'm really interested if this is the same person that I think it is.
Okay.
Austin since 2002. So like old, but not as old as some of these.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of gray hairs here.
Yeah, hi everybody. Tony Wenzel. I've been in Austin for almost 30 years, high school era. But I work for Jay here at Volcheck. I lead all customer engineering, so all pre-sales and post-sales globally for the company. I've been in cyber for a while, probably close to 15 years now. Mostly early stage startups, geosecurity, census, hypersecurity is my last career before Volcheck. So really interested in learning from people about go-to-market strategies, sharing ideas, and growing companies.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Robertson. I grew up here. I left for 25 years and moved back a couple years ago. I'm the CISO for Apogee Defense, a defense industrial base focused DCISO and MSSP. That's going to take a back step for a new role as an executive cybersecurity at a asset management firm in a couple weeks. So,
very cool.
Hey Greg, team. I'm Ravi Srinivasan. I'm the CEO of a company called Motiro, an Israeli-based company that I run from Austin. We just sold the company to Menlo Security a couple of months ago, and now I have some time to been in Austin for 30 years. Went to school and then was in the semiconductor business and then cyber for the last 20 years.
That's great. How about you?
Kelly Albright. I've been in Austin area for about 27 years now, and just moved to San Antonio. Not encouraging anyone, but Goldberg area is really cool. About 4 years ago, and I started my career at Dell. So did Dell and then IBM, and now I'm at a really cool company called Wiz. So I run, I'm the channel chief for Wiz.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Brown. Been in sales for most of my career. Started with small emerging companies, and like some of you guys, rolling out to the next one, to the next one. The one right before, and then I was with Simplify, which a lot of you guys probably know Simplify, and I ran their global sales organization. While I was doing that, we had done a transaction with BAE Systems, and in 2019, I bought the company. Actually, 2020, I bought the company. So I bought their global security or MSSP business, and started a company in the pandemic. That was really, and I'm in a country that they speak weird English.
That's awesome.
So yes, I'm the founder and CEO of Gallium. So, but it was the former BAE Systems MSSP.
Wow, that's great. And how long have you been here?
I've lived in Texas since 1979.
Wow, Okay.
I'm
One
an
of-
old guy.
The old guy. Another OG, but very old.
Houston, been in Austin. I live in Dallas now. Been bouncing around and stuff like that. And when I was in my 20s, late 20s and 30s, we were always down here. I've got friends that live here. We do the South by Southwest. You got to do that as a kid.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yes, I'm James Dean. No affiliation yet, forget the jokes.
Ah.
I head up the enterprise team here at Hubscale. So I joined Elliot and Katie just a few weeks back now. I've been in Austin for 9 months. So I moved here from a previous company, and I'm originally from London, just outside London.
Awesome. All right.
All right, Kyle Deering. I've been a native Texan, born in El Paso, but I've been in Austin since '87. So I was doing the math. It's 38 years this summer. Made my name in leadership, cyber roles in financial services companies. Short time in a couple nonprofits. Looking for my next role, but happy to be here connecting with everybody.
Yeah. Oh, we already know Elliot.
Yeah, that's
Right.
I'm Albert Schultz, and I wonder what color they're going to put on my badge next time. Let me start out saying I'm a connector too, particularly to Washington, defense and intelligence. My early career was in the CIA. Here in town, I'm on the board of the local branch of InfraGard. I tried to quit a couple months back, and they wouldn't let me quit. They wouldn't accept my resignation. So I'm still doing that. I'm also serving on the board of a company called Create AI that does AI-generated content. And then I have a consultancy. We help companies that are going through CFIUS problems, Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. I'm happy to help anybody who's facing that. I'm also a small-time investor. So I think I've got 3 or 4 dots.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, been in Austin 9 years.
Said what?
Been in Austin 9 years.
9 years. Great.
So Ted Ross, founder, CEO of SpyCloud. We've been around for about 8 years, about 200 people, about 60 million in ARR. Some of our customers are in the room here. So we find stolen data in the underground that can be used against people, curate it, put it in a usable format, send it to Falcon, Defender, Okta, etc., so they can remediate on those things. So it's been a fun ride. We raised our D round about 20 months ago. CFIUS was part of that. Definitely had to, we spent some money on lawyers.
I don't take it personally.
So yeah, I've done a whole number of series of fundraisers. Company's doing well, about 200 people-ish. And so hopefully we'll have a nice story to tell for this journey. So.
That's great. Thanks, Ted.
I'm Brad Rouse. I'm Ted's CRO. Just started a few weeks ago. Excited about that. I've been in Austin for 8 years. I've been in cybersecurity at least 25. And was in Chicago before that for probably 30 years. Super excited to meet everybody and get to see the flavor of something like this. I think it's a great idea. And I'm looking forward to future events.
Great. Thank you.
Jonathan Joshua. So I guess a little bit of a unicorn, although Todd spoke up about the state. So I served 25 years in the Air Force, cybersecurity. Watched cybersecurity really develop from just basic IT during that time. Retired, went to the AG's office here in Texas for about 4 years, and the last year, actually this week, I've been at the governor's office at CISO there. I'm also on a couple of nonprofit boards, and I'm also on the leadership committee as we're trying to bring Major League Baseball here to the state. So the Austin Baseball Commission, check it out on Facebook. We're working hard to get the Major League Baseball to bring a team here to Austin.
That's great.
So, something a little bit different.
That's a good topic. That's kind of, the authenticity of what we're doing here. And we're back to the panel, which is great. So I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, just as in line with everybody else here, and then we can move from there. How about you, Tito?
Okay. Testing. Is that working?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Tito. I'm one of the 3 co-founders and the CEO of a company called Hidden Layer. We founded to secure artificial intelligence systems from back at like adversarial abuses to them. Actually, we were born out of a real-world attack when I was working with Greg at a company called Cylance that actually, just to give you the minute there, we had a neural network inside of our Windows product, and some threat actors downloaded a free trial of our product, they started committing one of the world's first in the wild inference attacks. It was called a surrogate attack. We didn't have a name for it then. We do now. But essentially, they were submitting adversarial samples to it, watching it score. Then they used that data to retrain an exact copy of the model offline. They then took that, they sold it to about 7 different threat actors on the dark web, who would then use that model to test their bypasses, find out which ones were going to work. Then they brought them online and conducted them against our company, or our customers. So myself, another guy named Jim, and another guy named Tanner were kind of charged with the response effort for that while we were there. We are now the 3 co-founders at Hidden Layer. We recognized how really vulnerable artificial intelligence is. I mean, it's vulnerable at a code level. It's vulnerable at inference time, at runtime. It requires continuous testing. It requires security posture management, and that's exactly what we offer at Hidden Layer. We're a platform to secure artificial intelligence. We think of it a lot like endpoint or network or any other versions of security. We really create all of the sort of decisions that many of you have had to make in the CISO seat. It's really the same decisions that were made, just applied to a new space in artificial intelligence. And prior to that, I've been in cyber now for about maybe 15 years. I've been here in Austin for about 8 years, and mostly came out of, I was a malware reverse engineer for a while out in DC, and then worked with a company called the Media Trust for a while, as a lot of malware was transferred through advertising back then, and then spent a little time. I was the first chief data scientist at Qualys. And then worked at a company called Agar. We were building AI models to detect phishing campaigns, and then now with Hidden Layer.
Great.
Hi, everybody. Roger Thornton. Let's see. Been in Austin for about 12 years. Started commuting a year or two before that. Lived in Las Vegas, so I just left before you did. Was looking for an area that was a little bit hotter in the summer, and I think I found it. I was also looking for a great place to raise children. My wife and I were expecting my son, and a little easier to raise him here than it is back in Las Vegas. I'm a general partner with a venture capital firm called Ballistic. It's a very cool firm in that there are 2 of my partners that are very experienced venture capitalists. The rest of us, they let entrepreneurs invest money. So it's like, I don't know who thought that was a great idea, but so I just have this wonderful group of partners. Myself and Barmac Mefta, we're part of building a really amazing company that was primarily here in Austin called Alien Vault. And my good friends Ron Dovich here helped me do that. Prior to that, we built a company called Fortify Software. That was a Bay Area company. It's kind of all over the world. Early in my career, it's funny. When did I get started in security? I came out of college and worked in semiconductors, so I don't think I really did anything with security there. But then I went to Apple and I worked in operating systems, and I and everyone else at Apple, we were deeply involved with security, creating all sorts of buffer overflows and problems. When did I consciously try to have a positive impact? That was in about 2001. I read a paper called Smashing the Stack for Fun and Profit. I don't know if everybody remembers that. Really pissed me off, and so I wanted to do something about it. So that's about 24 years ago, and I haven't figured it out yet, but striving to do so. Pleasure to meet you all.
I'm Mike Hansen. I work for a company called Solidigm. I should have started in semiconductor, and then I would have got it out of my system, but this opportunity came as a $9.5 billion startup that started about 3 years ago. We spun out of Intel, and it's painful, just like any other startup. But my background is Marine Corps. I did that for many years, working in their cyber programs. I got selected to be the CIO down at Guantanamo Bay, so I spent a lot of time with the Secret Squirrels. There's like 15 different 3-letter agencies that work out of Guantanamo Bay, and so there's tons of operations constantly happening. It was always funny when Obama said we're going to shut it down, because you can't. It literally can't. And so, but it's a cool operation there. I got selected to work for Joe Biden to move the first cloud resources into AWS. So me and CJ did a lot of work together as young bucks back when AWS was barely doing AWS, and then that's where I met the VCs, right? I started working with Bessemer, and Bessemer said, hey, you need to take some companies public and learn how to do that. And so my first company was MindBody. We went public, did well, but then they introduced me to Procore right here down the street. Did very well there, and now that's why I'm here at this $9.5 billion startup, is to try to get them into a public company in the United States.
That's great. Just to kick it all off, this is fantastic. Well, one, I'm glad everybody got to meet each other. This is a great kind of group, very diverse, lots of new people, lots of old people. The idea is exactly that, right? To get to each other, to know each other, and now you can ask people about where they're from and what they're doing, and how to get some help in great restaurants, bad restaurants, babysitters, you name it, if you need them. Thank you guys for being on this panel, because you help represent the groups that we're trying to bring together as we go forward. So the theme of the night was really, how many people went to RSA? Okay, 2/3 of you went to RSA, that's pretty good. So the idea was, I went and was still utterly confused. I think we've been there way too many times. You're like, what the hell? I don't know how people understand what's even going on when you walk through there. So the idea, I was gonna ask the panel, and please participate, was like, did you see anything that was unique or sustainable when you were there? You know, and for real, just bring it on up. But you guys might want to kick it off, because a CEO in AI, right, a venture capitalist in the same thing, and then a practitioner, a user who might want to use it. Tell us about it. Give us a couple thoughts.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate part for when I go to RSA is I don't really go to RSA. I go to the Marriott suite and stay there for 15 meetings a day for 4 days straight. But I think we did spend a little bit of time. We had a booth. We spent a little bit of time on the floor. And I'm a little biased, but I did see a lot more focus on security for artificial intelligence. I think the space has been doing a really good job. Cyber's been some of the earliest adopters of artificial intelligence for those use cases for the last 15 or so years now, and there's a lot of reason for that. I mean, cyber's a man-made science, so you can have artificial intelligence models trained on data sets that are fully representative of the problem space that you're working in. You don't really get that in natural science, where it's really only what we can digitize or even what we understand. So cyber was sort of in a natural spot to really start leveraging AI in an early case, and many of us, I'm sure, worked in that field kind of early on as an adopter. Now I think we're starting to look at it a little bit more holistically, and I think a lot of organizations are starting to even release solutions for securing artificial intelligence, and that's, as I mentioned, that's the area I'm looking for. So because that's what we do. But I did see a lot more there. We saw it from Microsoft, we saw it from Cisco, we saw it from CrowdStrike. So there's a lot more sort of focus on that, which I think is really important. I mean, we're not going to have this, 12 trillion projection. I think was the most recent from Goldman in 3 years on a market from artificial intelligence, without thinking very, very heavily about how do we secure it. And so I think we saw a lot of that, which was great to see, kind of more of a focus on it. And I think that it was also kind of cool just in general to see, a lot more, especially kind of coming out of the pandemic. I feel like we're recovered now. I think that feels like we had back to pre-pandemic numbers in terms of attendance, and the city looked okay, and it was a good time. So that was my biggest sort of takeaway.
Yeah, Roger, what do you think?
Okay, for a different point of view on RSA. So first of all, RSA is too big for San Francisco. Can't host it anymore. They have to move that to Las Vegas or New York or someplace that can handle it. To say that to everybody, and maybe at some point they'll do that. So for my business, RSA is handy because every startup in the world is there, and at the same time, every investor in the world is there. And so you have these very hectic, short meetings, and a lot of investors are really good at making you feel great, even though they have no intention of investing, and so the entrepreneurs are not real focused. And so I never expect too much at RSA. We probably found 7 or 8 deals that we will prosecute through the process. I don't know if we'll end up investing in any of them. So it's useful for an investor, but if that's where you're meeting people, you're not going to get your best interactions. What did I take away from it? I really tried to avoid it as much as possible this year, but I still, so there are too many companies in our space. There's too many investment dollars coming into our space. As an investor, I don't really worry about that because, you think about maybe it's a pyramid, and only the top of the pyramid is going to make money. The pyramid could get bigger and bigger and bigger. You still had to be in that top of the pyramid. It doesn't really change the game. I do, though, I felt for a long time, and I was the founder of 2 cybersecurity companies. There was a put in our industry, which if you built a a good product, you had a good team, you were going to get bought because companies need teams and they that incremental extra customers and what have you. In other areas of IT and definitely in consumer, if you fail, you're gone. I think we are going to enter into a realm in our space where companies are just going to go away because there are just too many people and too many companies. So that was kind of a bummer. Don't feel bad for me. We'll be able to find those couple of good companies. I just feel bad for the industry, you know. In terms of themes, you know, Chris, you're in the sweet spot, and you guys are doing something that's meaningful, right? People are building these systems; they need them to be secure, but we're going to have agents, and agents are going to have autonomy, and therefore agents are going to need to have authentication and rights management. And there's going to be platforms for them, and there's a lot of people getting a little bit too far out ahead of the skis, right? So, you know, yes, we're going to have those, but there's probably going to be some platforms that manage them. You know, the number of AI buddies sitting on your shoulder to help you do better security and what have you. I just feel like there's, you know, a little too much overthinking the problem. So yeah, I wasn't, you know, you get free drinks and some decent food. I got to see old friends. Those are the, Mom said always end on a positive note. That was one of the good parts.
That's good. And Michael, did you go?
Yeah, and it is good to see everybody again. But and I got to see Keanu Reeves play the bass. He's pretty good, so that was a highlight. But I think that right now, you know, for me as a buyer, we're in that build or buy phase, right? So I feel like we understand how to leverage agentic AI better than our platform partners, and so we started to build that ourselves, you know, and starting to understand this concept of short-term, long-term memory, and how to build cognitive thought. Well, you can design that pretty easily with some help from Dataiku or some kind of platform like you're just referring to. But then you start to go out to your partners, and I tested this just in the ITSM world with the big buzz around ServiceNow and MoveWorks and the hyper automation purchase, right? Is that really agentic AI? Absolutely not, right? They're saying all the right things, and they have the right PowerPoints, but when you get behind the agent doesn't think much better than hyper automation. So then I go to the secure RSA, and it's the same talk, right? A lot of talk, but no real smart agents. And I think that's the challenge is, as I'm looking at it as a consumer, we're like back when we used to build these data farms with Tableau, right? You got a Wild West that you want to let grow, and then you got to put some control. We're in that phase right now where I can see that I'm building these engines that consume data at a rate that I could never do before. So data security, very important. Why? Because when my agent learns that Workday has data, it just knows to go get it, and it thinks about how to get it. Even if you put a control in place, it thinks around it. So I need security controls that say that know how to prevent the brain from thinking that smartly, and I'm not seeing that out there. But what I am seeing is, as I make my agents smarter, I replace like my L1 help desk, and I start to build that cognitive thought. I start to replace my L2. I also see that all the right data for my security agents is there, and so. But our tools don't really like to play with those things because they're built to not like to play with them, and that's the piece I'm trying to bridge today, and I didn't see that at RSA.
Yeah, that's interesting. How many people are going to Black Hat? Oh, man, that's interesting too. Now, most of us are vendors who are raising our hands for the most part, but it's a fascinating difference, right, of what's happening between Black Hat and RSA, like you said, where, you know, what do you learn and what do you see? So going down that path, what is driving the shift in cybersecurity value, right? It used to, like, I had heard a conversation. There used to be only like 40 vendors right here 20 years ago, in the space. I mean, we had 3 vendors in the IPS market back in 2000, 2001, 2002, and that was it, right? Now there's 2,500 in just our space, not counting all the tangential spaces. So, from each of your perspectives, which is interesting, what's driving that value for you, and then going down the vista? I don't always want to go back and forth, but talk about what value really means, and how do you determine it, and what's your best investment ROI? Like, what are you expecting to come out of that?
Yeah, so my number one value always, from a business perspective, is how do I protect the business enough so that it can thrive and stay agile, right? So that usually is a compliance concern, so I have to make sure that my sure that I have the right tools that people don't start creating doggy doors around. It doesn't do me any good to put a bank vault door and then a doggy door open up, right? And so we have to have the right balance of security to usage that we can train and make part of people's security lifestyle. So that's what I focus on.
That's good.
Picking up on what you said there, Mike, one of the smartest things that was ever said to me was banking security guy. So you know what our job is in security, right? Keep the money moving. Our job is not to slow everything down. And so good security that enables business is really important. I think in AI, we're seeing a lot of that. One of the things that, entrepreneurs will relate to this, and I love bringing entrepreneurs and buyers together when they're still young entrepreneurs that haven't set in stone what they're going to build. As an entrepreneur, you got a product and it's cool and it does all this stuff. Nobody gives a shit about that. There's a problem that your customer has that they want to solve, and you're not going to nail it at first. And all that product is at first is the right to sit down with them and figure out what the hell they need. And more a company is just laser focused. I know who my customer is, and I'm going to get in there. I'm going to honor them. I'm going to respect them. I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to solve problems. That'll never go out of style. That's the winning combination. And the one thing I do see as we get more vendors and what have you, we're going to be able to start to segment the market. It used to be that the big banks basically define security products that everyone else uses. Well, now we got security products for small companies, medium-sized companies, and different industries. And so
That's good. Any thoughts there, Tito?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest shifts I've seen from the CISO role in particular is it almost seems like it's just as responsible for revenue as anybody else in the C-suite now. I think that we see a lot of more business-oriented decisions happening within cybersecurity now. Are you protecting the user experience? Are you shielding, mechanisms that are generating revenue? Or is the more secure offering and the more secure decisions that you're making a new selling point for your customer base, and then knowing that working with you is going to be safer? And so, I don't think I've had a CISO conversation in the last 3 years with this company that didn't involve, how are we going to do things like accelerate their time to market? How are we going to do things like stay out of the way of the data science team while still protecting them because of how urgent a lot of those that time to value is? So, I think, and just like bringing a lot of security and AI specialists onto boards now, I think it's just very much a part of the business success in general. So I think that's a shift that's been happening over a long time, but I think it's very pronounced today in terms of the security team's responsibility is really just as tied into the success of the business as every other sort of element like a go-to-market team would be.
Now, a question for just anybody who wants to grab it is, is there a trend towards platforms or best of breed? So, I want to tie this eventually back into Austin, because Austin's been great best of breed environment, right? Typically, you get in, you get started, you get up, you're sold for, 30 to 150, 200 million, and you just move on, right? Not really been a city for platforms. So where do you see a trend? Are people saying, yep, I'm just going CrowdStrike, that's it? Or do you think there's still hope for all the best of breeds and, everything from the buyer to the investor? What do you guys think?
I hear from a lot of people the need for consolidation, simplicity. There's too much stuff. And one of the things, a platform can do that, but that can come from a large company buying up a bunch of small companies, Frankensteining everything together. Now they got tons of leverage when they come to deal with you and you pay more. Or it could come from a smart entrepreneurial group that figures out how to take a complicated problem and make it simpler. So, I think whether it's platform or some other form of consolidation, that will be rewarded well now in our industry. And then circling that back to Austin, I think, the reason, and there, obviously the folks there at Southport, both pretty big company, and Gulf Stone is a pretty good-sized company. We've had a few. They just have so many more at bats in the Silicon Valley that they're always just have a bigger number there. But I'm talking to
Everybody's lighting up.
Yeah,
Little
I'm
another
looking at
tornado coming through
worrying about the drive home
the
here.
town. Yep, those severe thunderstorms. All right.
This is a good one. We're good here.
Okay, that's good. We're like, oh crap, we got to fight the traffic.
I thought that was the alarm. We were talking too long for our answers or something like
Yeah.
that. But, no, actually, I'm going to go back to something that Roger mentioned in his first answer, which is that I think there's still room for both. I think we're still seeing growth in both best-of-breed solutions and platform solutions. But I think similar to VCs, not just sort of seeing if a team is going to get picked up by another organization, you really have to prove the value now, either as best-of-breed or in the convenience scenario. So, like, for example, one of our head competitors just got acquired, and even their strategy almost seemed like even as like a Series A company, they were acquiring like really small two-people shops to make their solution, and then they just sold to Palo Alto for $700 million. So I mean, I think that there's still kind of a consolidation approach. It's what we're trying to do as well. But I think when you talk about like the big cybersecurity platforms, I think that there's still a lot of value in that kind of simplification, and everybody seems to have a vendor reduction strategy. And man, it's coming down.
Damn, look at that.
Yeah,
Just real quick.
Would
break.
Wow, look at that. But yeah, I mean, short answer is I still think if you're to be best of breed and to continue to be relevant, you just really have to provide value that's not out there. You can't be I do that too, or I do that slightly better. Best of breed needs to be its own real value generation solution that's worth dealing with a new vendor on.
So you say that, but I was at RSA and I saw 50 of the same vendors, and they have the exact same offering, and they all say the same shit. It's like they took their PowerPoint and copy and pasted it. And
yeah, well, that wouldn't be best of breed. That would just be like breed, right? Like that. Like that's.
We literally walk up to them and say, how are you different than vendor B? You're direct, and half of them didn't know their direct competitors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much less to be able to answer what the difference between them and how are they better than their biggest.
Oh yeah, and I agree with you there. I mean, we have what 6,000 cybersecurity companies today. I mean, I think so that and not that many of them are gonna really get to that next level. And so couldn't agree more. And I think there's an element there of one of the sort of downsides at RSA, and I fought having a booth for a very long time because of this, is sort of like how are you staffing it? How are you using it? Are you telling the story? I think that's a big deal as well, because you end up with somebody who was a temp who was hired to work the booth or something like that, and they're like, what do you do? I don't know, AI, and so it works out that way. But yeah, exactly.
So I went to a Bank of America dinner that Chris Crowder, the CISO, was hosting, and at the end of the dinner, some people asked a question, and answered the question to the group. And one of the questions was this: what do you think about platforms versus best in class? And his first response was, everyone knows that platforms are where the good ideas go to die. And so there are buyers like somebody who's very sophisticated, like a B of A, who understand we need to go into the weeds, find the best in class, and they have the intelligence to put it all together. And there are companies who need to consolidate because they don't have to do it. And they're just going to check the boxes. Our customer base, we're seeing more and more CrowdStrike customers, Microsoft customers, etc. Because when we bring in things like malware, 7% of malware brand has active defense running on the endpoint, right? So we need to feed those active defense endpoints with the data we're plugging in. We definitely see a need for best in class, at least from our perspective.
I would agree. So I look at it from this perspective, the 80-20 rule. 80% of my enterprise has to be controlled by a platform because it's just so big, right? It's the size of our organization. So yeah, but the 20% that holds my crown jewels needs something specific, and it needs to be specialized, and it needs to be tailorable. Where if I'm using the platform, if I'm using Purview and Copilot and all these, they're not tailorable, right? But they do hit my 80% rule. But I'm going to use something that's going to tailor to my needs, and the only way I do that is going down the Series A aisle, right? And looking at, actually, I remember looking at your product at Nova Ghost, but anyway, so Series A aisle is the only way I solve those problems.
A lot of people say we're a platform, but we're going to be a platform. Platform is one of those things. It's like, I'm going to be a leader. Well, I'll know you're a leader when there's people following you, right? And a platform is only a platform when there's an ecosystem around it that makes it great. If it's a platform
really wanted to build a platform. But it's not as easy as people think it is, right? Just because I have a bunch of point solutions and I have some middleware layer and some infrastructure on the data side to connect it all together, it doesn't mean I have a platform. There's way more things to think about, and I don't think anyone's achieved it quite yet. But that's just my perspective.
I agree, especially if you think, Azure is a platform, AWS is a platform. There are thousands of things that combine it. And one of the most frustrating things I'm friends with those people is trying to tell them is encourage an ecosystem of security products just like you have in other places, and don't try to take them out with your own solutions. So even the platforms struggle at making a platform in security for some reason.
Well, I think that's a consensus, because ServiceNow, if you look at that if you look at their conference, that's all they were pitching was integration. They are now the integration platform, right? So yeah, I agree.
I would say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they did.
That's a
So they
platform.
can help a platform company compete with Amazon.
That's right.
Yeah, I would say that's a unique problem to cyber as well, just based on the fact that we're extremely fragmented when you compare to any other sort of industry. Part because of the underlying technologies we have to secure are so different from each other that does require. So even if you're using a platform, you're probably also using somewhere between like 50 and 100 other vendors for all the different bespoke needs. There's no, I think our leader's at 7% versus like, there's no Salesforce with 50% of the business or something along those lines. So I think that's part of the platform struggle as well.
No, that's great. Good discussion on that. We're kind of at 6:45, so I want to be sensitive of time. I was going to lean this around to Austin. So that's coming down. But I don't think the heavy stuff's coming down for quite a while now. No, it's true. For all the newbies here, for the long Austinites, you know that like this will last for 10 minutes and then it'll go back to being sunshine and yeah. That lake is dry. Yeah, while we were here, my daughter just texted me. She's like, I'm under an overpass because it's coming down so hard. I was like, okay. She's 18, just trying to get around town. So keeping that conversation going a little bit, one of the things I wanted to talk about was Austin. So a lot of you moved here recently. Some of you have been here for a long time. And the question is, I don't know if you saw the Austin Business Journal article that just came out literally yesterday, but there's a debate going on, is Austin kind of waning or waxing on its growth? And there was a concept around population, that kind of domestic migration, just people in the U.S. moving to Austin, actually decreased a couple percent. Exactly. I've got a shirt that says Austin population, and it says full. Okay. But unfortunately, that was like 5 years ago, so you guys kept coming. But the other side the other side of that population statement was the international population, thank you, Elliot and the UK team, grew up like 8%. So we got more international folks moving to Austin than we do domestic people from other parts of the United States. Even though, who was the one? You were telling me everybody here is from California? Yeah. Yeah, well, I married a California girl, and she, a little side story, when we went through West Texas, bringing her from California here, she ran into a cowboy, and she came back in from eating her chicken fried steak, and she was pale. I said, what happened? She goes, I ran into a cowboy. I said, well, that should have been good. She goes, yeah, but he asked me when I'm going back. And I was like, oh, I hear you. So, but on that is an open question for everybody here, but like, I know that, Roger, you have a good opinion on, is Austin growing or shrinking relative to tech? Since a lot of people are moving here, we don't want a lot of people to move out, but you have an opinion.
Yeah, so let's see the best way to kind of frame all this. There's a lot of opinions about Austin that are formulated and written by the gigantic companies in the Bay Area that set up outposts here and sent thousands of employees. And I laugh at the ones who are like, oh, I moved there, it was hot in the summer. And I think you could just eradicate that as noise, right? And then for anybody place I would be in Texas to base a business. Between Houston and Dallas, especially, and San Antonio, you have an enormous base of industrial banking. A huge amount of Wall Street banks have their operation centers in those places. The NSA, for all practical purposes, from San Antonio, and you have an employment base. You know, recruiting engineers in Austin is really tough. Recruiting engineers in Dallas and moving them to Austin is not so hard. There's also these other hacks. Recruiting somebody that lives anywhere in the country that went to UT Austin, that just had kids and they're about ready to go to school is shooting ducks in the barrel, fishing barrel. So it's Texas, not necessarily Austin. There's all this stuff that came with a bunch of California companies coming and going, but I think the trend is absolutely our friend. And the last part I'll leave, you know, big politics aside, more stuff's going to be made in the United States. There's no, it's fact. Not just the current stuff, but supply chains all over the world. COVID taught us that was a problem. Where do you think those factories are going to be built? Are they going to be built in New York? California? Maybe a couple in Nevada. Texas is going to be the recipient of so much of that.
Yeah.
And then we are all in an industry that serves other industries. And so those other industries grow, we grow. And so there's no better place to be than Texas. There's no better place in Texas to be than Tampa. That's my guess.
Thank you.
Can I say something about that? I got asked this question when I moved here, and so I have clients who are VCs and investors, clients who are founders, and clients who are CISOs and other executives. And what I find is people that are busy, thriving, and enjoying where they live are never telling anybody they like it. So the articles and the things and the curmudgeons who are just miserable people get picked up by the news, and everybody's like, yeah, this place is too hot, this is like the, but the people who are making lots of money, thriving, meeting people, enjoying life, like themselves, like their family, like doing things on the weekends, they're not stopping to fill out the fucking survey.
I like it. Thanks, Neil. Good point. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I can speak as part of the problem. I moved here pretty recently from the East Coast, and you know, I think the rate, I think it's still increasing. I think there's more options now to cities that are kind of have similar profiles. Like Tampa is growing pretty significantly, especially in the VC community. Nashville is starting to grow pretty much as a tech hub as well. So I think I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of the rate slow down, because now there's other sort of income tax free states that are starting to offer up you know, some alternatives, but I still think it's going to grow pretty substantially for, number one, the biggest reason being manufacturing and other sort of opportunities that Texas offers. But I still find it a lot easier to recruit here than to recruit in offices in California and New York, and DC. So I think that you know, for the exact reason that Roger just mentioned, it's a great place to raise your kids. It's a great place to you know, to meet other, you know, groups in tech. And the last thing I sort of like about it, and this is when I'm pitching it to others to come here, is in those other companies, like, you know, this would be like a Salesforce event. This would be like a Microsoft event. Here in Austin, it's a startup community. There's venture, there's startup, there's other great tech, and it's led by. So I find it more interesting. Even Capital Factory here, I mean, it is phenomenal. They're you know, you see, if you hang out long enough, you see like something cool every day in terms of a new type of solution. So I think that I do like that it's a little bit more startup and investor led here in Austin than it feels you know, in some of the other big cities, which are a little bit more like kind of, the community seems a little bit more driven by you know, folks who that is their full-time job at some of these organizations.
Yeah, I will say too, I came from Santa Barbara, and we tapped out Santa Barbara, right? We couldn't get any more talent there, and I told the CEO at the time, you give me a couple months in Austin, and you'll see, in this building down the street on 6th Street, you know, we went from 23 salespeople to over 800, 600 of them were engineers, right? So I had zero problem. Now I did hear, you know, like the Home Depots and government saying, hey, we can't get any more talent because we are, you know, the SaaS companies are sucking it up. That's for sure. And I can tell
saw a shift where people who wanted to move life forward left California and came here. But we see a lot of people moving to Austin who wanted shiny, cool, it's an awesome, Austin's weird, it's a great environment, it's so cool. But now those people are like, yeah, maybe it's not as cool as I thought it would be. So that's who I think they're seeing the exodus of.
Yeah.
But the people who want to move their life forward are the ones who are still coming.
That's a good perception. Yeah.
I think the folks who are 0 to 10 years in a career who move here are often moving to Kyle, Buda, Leander, Cedar Park, Georgetown, and so the growth rates of those cities is all top 10 in the country. And we're recruiting here regularly. We treat Austin metro area as a hub for recruiting, and a bunch of the folks that we're recruiting right now are out of those cities and not actual Austin, as the cost of living in Austin proper has skyrocketed. I think that's part of the dynamic that keeps us.
Yeah, it's a good point.
There's a funny thing too, because I live in a very old neighborhood, and most of my neighbors are timing out and they're replacing, but it took a few years before they even would talk to me. And the very first thing they would say is, "So where are you from, neighbor?" And they're really asking, "You're not from California or New York, are you?" And I lived 3 years in New York, and I went to college and started my career in California. And thank God I was born in New Mexico and moved to Nevada, so I never had that problem. But I noticed that that's kind of gone away now. It's okay, the newcomer's fine, no matter where you're from. But there's one thing though, people in Austin are happy, and they're happy about being here. They're happy about they're sociable, and so if you're gonna be here, be happy, be sociable, and love it. And if you don't like it, go ahead and go somewhere else.
Be part of that 2% that left. Yeah, this is great. I mean, well, and one of the last comments here from my standpoint too is one of the things I love about Austin is everybody tries to help each other. Like, you guys can probably comment better than I, but when you're in the Valley or New York, it's competitive. Like, you're not going to talk about a lot of stuff because it's competitive. Where here, I've only found that people just want to help. Even if it's competitive, they're like, dude, let's help each other and figure it out. So I find it very authentic, very true to helping one another. I love Texas because it's like pull your stuff up by the bootstraps concept. You're allowed to fail here, which is interesting. I'm originally from North Carolina, like I said earlier, I left because my dad was a very big figure there, and I was like, if I failed there, I'm like, oh, poor Fitzgerald. Versus here, when I came here, I'll never forget, I met a couple of older folks, and I wanted to meet that guy and that guy and that guy when I came to one of these networkers. And they were like, no, you're going to meet that guy. And I was like, who the hell is that guy? He's like, that guy, he's a Dellionaire. One-hit wonder, right place, right time. That one, he did it illegally, off the cuff, whatever. He did it. I was like, wow. He goes, what about that guy? He goes, let me just tell you a story. Short and sweet was, he made it. He tried to make it. He made it pretty decent in his first hit. Second one, he didn't quite make it. Third, he got divorced because of it. Fourth, he got back on his feet. And then here he is 20 years later, and he's a multi-billionaire, but it wasn't the money, it was the respect people had for him. And from that point on, I was like, that's what I love about this place. They don't care if you got money, don't money, as you guys already know, if you're driving around in your Bentley or you're driving around in your pickup truck. People do not care for the most part. And therefore, it's great because it's just like, who are you? What do you stand for? What's your meaning? What value do you provide for here, not just for me? And I think that's great. So you three have definitely been exemplifications of that here. I want to thank you guys for the panel. I want to thank everybody for being here. Again, what we'd like you to do now from as an action item is if you're not on Slack, on the Slack channel for Keep Austin Secure, please get on it. Please start talking on it and chatting on it. We're now friends here. We've all met each other. You've got to know each other, know how long we've been here, which is great. And hopefully this starts this process and that we'll start doing more of these together and finding times, just even if they're small groups. So I don't expect the next one to be 10 times bigger or anything like that. It's just not a volume game. This is a quality experience we want. And so if there's things like, we talk about pickleball, like, well, I'm not a pickleballer. Okay, well, go anyway, and you might find some folks who just hang out and watch, right? Let's have breakfast together. Or, suggest some things that would be for you. I fully expect this to kind of splinter in little groups, but be organized in a macro level, if that makes sense. So we have a website that's going up with the events and the calendars. We'll start using Eventbrite more and those type things. And hopefully everybody just start to join in and bring your friends, you can tell people this is a quality event. You're not going to get pitched. We weren't looking for jobs. This is one of those things where we'll have rules that if we start finding out about that, then the idea is, whoa, that's not the purpose of this thing, right? It's to get to know each other for who they are, what they like about this, and see if we can't build Austin and the greater ecosystem so that people are talking about us in a positive way, like we have talked about California or New York or other cities. And that way they're just like, that's exactly why Austin is cool, right? It's because of the people. So again, thank you on behalf of Elliot. Thank you very much for all that you've done and paying for all of this and supporting it. And we'll do this some more. Unless there's any other questions, we'll let everybody see. Sunshiny. How about that? Right? Friggin', that's awesome. Thanks, team.